Hi, I'm John Woods with Insurance Navigators. I'm here today with Melissa Chambers from Melissa Chambers Consulting. Melissa, tell us why you got into what you do.
Good morning, John. Thanks for having me here. So I have been in healthcare my whole life, 30 plus years now. That makes me feel old to say that. Um, but it's the truth. And probably about 15 or so years ago, I got into the senior living environment. And my first position was in assisted living, and we had a memory care neighborhood there. And I did not know the first thing about dementia, if I'm being honest. Um, there were things like silly things that I should have known. And when I was looking around, I was like, why are they doing this? And it was like totally common sense if you knew anything about what you were doing, which I didn't. But what I noticed first and foremost was the staff that was caring for the residents in particularly in the memory care neighborhood and the family members of the residents did not know. They knew about as much as me, and it was not a lot. And the staff, I mean, to no fault of their own, they would be struggling sometimes with, or the residents living with dementia would be struggling, and then the staff would be struggling to take care of them and not really have tools in their tool belt to figure out like what to do next. The family members would come and they would come to me and say, I don't, do you think it's important for me to keep coming to visit? Because my dad doesn't even know that I'm here. We sit here for 30 minutes and watch Jeopardy. He doesn't talk because he can't talk, and I don't talk because he can't answer me. And, like they just didn't know. They didn't know. They were lost. And it broke my heart. It broke my heart. And there was one family member in particular. It was an Italian family. The son and daughter were there all the time for their dad. And the son was struggling really bad. He would come to me every day for months, every day, and sit in my office and just say, like, how are we going to get my dad better? And I'm like, we're not going to get your dad better because this is not something that you get better from, unfortunately. And I could just tell that it was not sinking in. He was just devastated. He was struggling. He could not understand this. And whatever I was telling him, it was not sinking in. And his dad started out in the assisted living side of the building, and then we had to move him to memory care. And even then, I was trying to educate him and help him understand the disease process because now at this point I knew a little bit more. And I could just tell he wasn't getting it. And I just thought to myself, we have to do something. We have to do something. We have to do better for these families. And so I put together this educational program, and I had a physician speak, and it was like a four-part series. And I learned as much, if not more, than the families did. In the meantime, I was also taking a bunch of classes and as much as I could to figure out about dementia so that I could learn more about it. But anyways, the point is when we were in the first part of this four-part series, this gentleman, this family that I'm talking about, it was this Italian family. And the reason why I say that is because I'm Italian. And so they liked me automatically because I was Italian. It was like default. Like I had dark curly hair and they're like, you're Italian, aren't you? And like they wanted me to come to Sunday dinner. So they just loved me automatically. And so, anyways, we're in this first meeting and it was at the end and the doctor was done talking and the doctor said, does anyone have any questions? And a couple people raised their hand and asked their questions. And it was the very end. And I could see all of these thoughts racing in his head. And he just kind of went like this. And then he said, are you telling me that my dad is not going to get better from this? And it was like this aha moment, like the light bulb finally went off. And at this point, I had been telling him this for probably 6 months,
Mhm.
probably 5 days a week. And I knew that it wasn't going anywhere with him. And finally, and the doctor answered him and said no. and he just started crying. And I will never forget that moment. It gives me the chills now to tell the story. I will never forget that moment. I just absolutely loved this family. They don't know. He doesn't know that this is probably why I do what I do. But after that, I just made it like I just felt so passionate about helping families understand what is going on. You know, you go to the doctor, you get this diagnosis, and then you go home. And then you're just like sitting there staring at each other, like, what now? And
Hmm.
it's a huge, major, huge change. It's a huge life-changing event. And so I just made it like a priority to learn as much as I possibly could about the disease process. I certainly do not call myself an expert. I never say that. However, I have several certifications, and that is sort of how my consulting journey began. Um, uh, so that's kind of the reason why I do what I do.
That's a powerful story, Melissa.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really is. And like I said, I remember that in my heart. I could see his face as we speak every time I tell the story. And I'm sure he's not unlike a lot of families, you know. It's so difficult.
One of the things that I really like about you and why I trust you as my clients was contained in that story because you take that educational approach like we do. Excuse me, if you don't understand what's going on and what your potential options are, in any given situation, you can't make good quality decisions.
Right.
So that four-part series you did also kind of laid the basis for how you operate and how you provide services to a family. Is that accurate?
That's accurate. Yes, I am very, I believe so much in education. And, you know, anytime that someone gets some type of terminal diagnosis, it's horrible. It doesn't matter what it is, right? Heart disease, cancer. I mean, any terminal chronic diagnosis is a horrible thing. Um, I've had many family members unfortunately pass away from cancer, and I always would say that's the most horrible, cruel disease until I learned a little bit more about dementia. And I will tell you, you know, I don't think there's anything worse. I mean, maybe ALS, you know, I don't know, but it's not a competition of what's worse or not. The problem is the person living with the diagnosis, eventually, they're just in their, I mean, maybe not at first, but eventually they're just kind of in their own world. They're in their own space. They don't really know that there's a problem, and
Right.
they're just doing their thing. They don't know that they're asking you the same thing 10 times in 60 seconds. You know, they have no idea that they're walking around with no pants on. You know, they just, they're just in their own world. The problem is it leaves back these family members and the caregivers and the people that are just they're broken hearted. And
Mhm.
and if you don't have the education behind, you know, understanding why this is happening, it 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 prohibits you from being the caregiver that you want to be, because
Right.
inevitably, every family member that I talk to, they feel guilty because they lose their patience. They feel guilty because they scream at their loved one who has, on the 10th time they've asked the question in 60 seconds, you know, they're like, I can't take this anymore, you know, and we feel guilty, you know, during the caregiving process. And understanding and being educated of why this is happening certainly doesn't make you have more patience. It can, but I mean, there's no magic pill for that. Sometimes you're going to lose your patience still. Sometimes you're going to get frustrated and irritated and yell or raise your voice or whatever. But the education behind it helps so much. So many people, when they think of dementia, they think it's like a memory problem or a memory issue, which it certainly is, but it's a disease of the brain. So just like if you have congestive heart failure, for example, your heart isn't it's broken, it's not working properly.
Right.
Well, when you have some sort of dementia diagnosis, your brain is broken. And people don't understand that at first, and they don't understand that our brains control everything we do. And eventually, with that disease, because the brain is not working properly, it's going to affect everything that we do, that or that person does. And so it's horrible. It really is. It's horrible. And but I think that the education and having someone there is invaluable. It's just absolutely invaluable.
So when someone reaches out to you, they recognize a problem, they hear about Melissa Chambers. What, where do you start? How do you walk them through it? What's the process?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, some people that I talk to, they're like, "Well, where were you 10 years ago? I could have used you so much." And a lot of times, those are the people that, are telling other people about me because they know how awful it is to go at this alone. And, but really where I start is different for everybody. I mean, I guess it's the same, but it's also different. I start out usually with a 30 to 60-minute consultation at no charge. Just like, what is going on with you? Tell me a little bit about what's
Hmm.
your story? Why are you calling me? Why, who's your loved one? What's going on with your loved one? And then from there, it's a little bit different for everybody because everybody needs something different. And as long as it's something that I feel confident that I could help them with, then I do. Sometimes it's not me at all. Sometimes I'm sending them to someone else, but sometimes I'm giving them five different resources, but they need them all. So it really just depends. But um, I help people in a couple different ways. A lot of times people just need someone to talk to. I have a family member that I talk to every single week. Um, she sometimes it's her husband, she's the wife. Her husband has the diagnosis. They just moved him not too long ago into a memory care neighborhood. It was a horrible, hard transition. They're actually across the country in California. So I wasn't able to help them with the move, which I can talk about also in a minute. But they I talk to her every week, and she has this little notebook that she writes in, and it's like her updates that she wants to tell me. And so sometimes it's just about that she's keeping busy because I tell her that I want her to, not make everything about him. She has to still live her life, and so sometimes it's about just what she's done the past week, or sometimes it's about, well, this happened and I don't know if I handled it the right way. Tell me if I should have done something differently. So a lot of times it's just helping with ideas, suggestions, and I'm doing some education in the middle of those stories. She might say something, and then I say, okay, now let's talk about this. This is probably why he did this. So that you understand. So when he does it again, you'll know, keep that in the back of your mind. And maybe this is a good suggestion of things that you could say or how you could handle it.
Hmm.
They might work, they might not work because this disease is different every day. But so it's a lot of support. A lot of people say they feel like we're friends, which I am. I do become friends. I mean, I feel like I become part of my client's family at some point, because I'm so involved with them. And so that's one way that I help families.
Okay.
A lot of times there's family dynamics, which we all have, right? And when we have a loved one,
Excuse me.
especially a parent, with some diagnosis, that brings out the worst of the family dynamics. And so I don't do this often because usually it doesn't get to this point, but like one time I sat down with a family and I was like, the moderator. Like I was the mediator. Like there were five siblings. We were sitting at a table. It was very clear they had no love lost for one another. Um, there was one that was local, and then three that were out of town from all parts of the country. And it was like, well, these people are telling me what to do, but they're not here to do any of it. So they're barking all these orders. Well, just because I decided to stay close to my parents doesn't mean that everything should fall on me. That's not fair. And if I'm the one that's here, why are they all telling me what to do? Then I'm the one that's doing it. I'll do it how I want to do it. And this one's talking about the bills and the money and how it should be done. And it was not a good situation, but because I wasn't involved, because it wasn't my loved one, I was able to be very objective and say, okay, here's what I'm hearing. Here's the issue at hand. First of all, we need to worry about mom. Is she getting cared for? Is she getting cared for enough? We have to worry about the sibling that is here locally with her. Is she getting too burnt out? Can she do this? So
Hmm.
let's hear what's going on, and so on and so forth. And so by the end of it, I gave everybody a job of what they could do
That's
to stay
good.
in their own lane, and everybody seemed happy with it. And, that was sort of the end of it. It was like a one and done thing, but they just needed someone to be that objective person to, you know, um, kind of handle things. But so those are the two main ways, or two ways that I help people.
Right.
And then there's a third way too, but you tell me when you want me to stop talking.
I'll just point out we have a mutual friend who's an attorney who says that in these situations or when the parent passes, you see the worst of
Yeah,
humanity of how people can treat each other when they're family.
yeah.
So yeah, it's not easy.
Yeah,
Well,
it's definitely
is
not
there
easy.
any other major service I know you can help people with placements and transitioning?
Yes, yes. So I am also what you call a senior living advisor. And so basically what that is it is someone who helps when you need or want or whatever you want to fill in there to move your loved one to independent living, assisted living, memory care. It it's a daunting task. I don't, if any listeners have ever had to do it, they would definitely know what I'm talking about. You might Google assisted living near me and realize, there might be 25 options that come up. Some of them are assisted living, some of them aren't, but you would have no idea of that.
Right,
And, yes, maybe there's 20 or 25 options, but maybe your certain circumstances, maybe there's only four good options that would actually work for you. And you would have no idea of knowing that.
right,
So when you work with someone like me, a senior living advisor, what I do is I talk to you first, tell me what's going on, what's the situation. Um, a lot of times, I would say 99% of the time, people think they need to look for a nursing home when they actually really don't. They think that everything is a nursing home, and they realize once they talk to me that their loved one sure can live in an assisted living or a memory
hmm,
care. But I find out what's going on. I make the phone calls. I set up the appointments, the tours. You don't have to do any of that. I don't give your phone number out. So you're not going to be receiving calls from 20 different people. You will only have to talk to me, which could be good or bad. I don't know, but but you only have to talk to me, and then I work with you all the way through the time that you move your loved one in. And then sometimes people call me a year afterward and they're like, well, I'm having this problem. Can you help me talk to the building? And I'm like, yes, certainly. Of course I will. So yeah, it is so helpful to have someone, because I've done this for so long, I could just rattle off the top of my head. Well, like as soon as I'm talking to someone and they're telling me the situation, I'm automatically thinking of three or four places that are going to be the best fit for them. Like I'm automatically ruling the other ones out. So, yeah, it's very helpful to have someone like that in your corner.
Yeah, I've seen you personally do that thing when we were talking with the third person about a situation, and you just went, "Well, no, you want to do this, this, and this, and here's why." It was just instantly right there off the top of your head. It was great to watch.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
this is
thank
wonderful, Melissa. I appreciate your time.
thank
Going to
you. Thanks for
encourage
having
everybody
me.
to reach out to you. What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Sure. The website is melissachambersconsulting.com. There's a contact us page on there. There's a lot of information on there. There's a bunch of resources. Or our phone number is 330-623-7150.
Beautiful. Thanks, Melissa. Appreciate your
Thank
time.
you so much, John. I appreciate it.